Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to another edition of Forum on the Go. And today's forum will be on entitled Ankara NATO Summit 2026 Strategic Autonomy in an Era of Great Power Competition. Welcome, Mr. Rıfat Öncel, if I got your name right, from SETA, Turkey. Today's
Thank you.
discussion will revolve around the just concluded NATO summit, which was held last week. Thank you for joining us today. And my first question on this particular topic or subject will be the NATO summit, which was held in Ankara last week, was a significant event and hosted by, of course, Turkey. Now, beyond its symbolism, how did this summit reshape Turkey's geopolitical position within NATO, its immediate neighborhood, and the wider international system? Can you give us your thoughts?
Thank you for having me, first of all. NATO summit implemented during a critical period of alliance's transformation process, because we know that there are several significant objectives and challenges the alliances face today. For instance, there is the transatlantic divide, particularly since the Trump administration came to power, between the United States and Europe, regarding particularly the burden sharing. And there was a significant uncertainty on the future of US military commitments and military deployments to Europe in the coming period. And there was also the Strait of Hormuz crisis, where Donald Trump criticized European allies for not helping so much US objectives in the region. Uh, he even argued that NATO was a paper tiger, and European allies within the NATO were cowards. So this divide was very severe, in fact. And Turkey, in its opinion, strives to mitigate the effects of this transatlantic divide by underlining the political solidarity among the allies and uh, seeking ways to boost defense spending, equipment expenditures, and further defense industrial cooperation. And when we look at the declaration of the Ankara summit, we see that there is a consensus. There are now 6 articles in the declaration, and they demonstrate consensus on core matters. Now the allies under the Trump administration focus more on the core issues rather than details of the security landscape. For instance, we saw that there is the uh, commitment to further increase defense spending. You know that in the past year at the Hague summit, the allies committed to 5% to GDP defense spending. And now in the Ankara summit, they kept this commitment to further boost this spending. And in terms of defense industrial cooperation, Turkey has always argued and defended that there should be no barriers among the allies in terms of defense cooperation. But in the past, due to national barriers or the priorities of the national defense companies, the defense infrastructure and the defense cooperation between the European allies were fractured. Now NATO, after the particularly Russia-Ukraine war, desires to eliminate these barriers by developing some mechanisms to boost this cooperation. And this, in fact, in line with the Turkish priorities. For instance, Turkish companies now making new defense agreements, new defense deals with the European counterparts. And several agreements were signed in the past years, and under NATO summit, uh, uh, several new agreements signed, and Secretary General Mark Rutte announced that 5 billion, more than 5 billion defense agreements were signed today. And regarding the transatlantic relations, uh, in fact, this summit were much of a progress in terms of Turkish-American relations, rather than Turkish-European relations or vice versa, because there is a good relationship between President Trump and President Erdogan, and there has been a problem of defense procurement between Turkey and the United States since 2016, when Turkey procured S-400 defense system from Russia. So after that, uh, the United States, imposed by the Congress, uh, put cuts of sanctions on Turkey, and Turkey has been removed from F-35 program. This was a critical moment, which hit significantly Turkish defense modernization program. Now we are seeing that President Trump strives to return to original defense relations, and he promised that he will deliver F F-110 engines to Turkey, so that Turkey can use these motors, use these engines for its Kan fighter jet. And we also saw some steps could be taken regarding the S-400 issue. But in the current phase, there is an uncertainty on the issue, how these two actors would resolve the issue. So the cuts or sanctions clearly state that Turkey should not use S-400s, but also it should not have the system in its territory. So even if Turkey does not use the system, it also does not have the system in its territory. So there should be a formulation whether these systems could be deployed to third countries or other bases outside the Turkish territory. But it's uncertain now. So
So
we are currently waiting for the conclusive evidence to reach a situation, but the atmosphere was good in the summit, and it is more likely that the issue would be resolved in the coming period.
yes, from what you were saying just now, I think, of course, NATO is, of course, a military pact, and Turkey is a very significant part of that pact. And of course, from your explanation, the benefits, or rather, you could see a change in America's position towards uh, Turkey itself by uh, giving some kind of assurance that the fighter jets would be available for Turkey, of course, upon conditions. Now, I would like to come to another part of the, I mean, the the issue here is, Turkey is, of course, a significant member of NATO, but it's also an influential Muslim majority nation. Now, how can Ankara effectively balance its obligations? On the one side, you have NATO, and on the other side, credibility in the Muslim world, particularly when it comes to issues like occupied Palestine, regional sovereignty, humanitarian diplomacy. Now, would be not what is the worth of NATO to Turkey in this respect?
Yes, this is a long-standing question, and Turkey has, for some aspects, a unique country positioned uniquely in its relations with the West and its relations with the East. It has been a long-standing NATO member, candidate to European Union. Even its prospects has become dim for years, and it has also been a Muslim country, and also a country that uh, keep a close eye on its relations with the Muslim states, and particularly on the sensitive issues like the Palestine issue or the Gaza issue. Uh, yes, Turkey has been an actor belong to the Western security architecture, but since the Cold War and even the declaration of the Republic, it has a sensitive approach towards the Muslim issues. So, how can we describe and formulate this relationship? Is in the it lies on the flexibility and the differentiation between the the use of material capabilities and the diplomatic flexibility. Turkey sees it in this way. Uh, in terms of security architecture and the hard power military capabilities, material capabilities, it focused on NATO membership because due to historical reasons, it has perceived significant threat from Russia, from the Soviet Union in the Cold War, and after the Cold War. Despite good relations with Russia, there was always a possibility of conflict, as it was the case in Syria for the past decade. And in terms of the Muslim countries, Turkey sees this way. Uh, it wants to help friend and allied countries to make their defense and security reform better. We saw these experience in Somalia, Libya, Azerbaijan, and Syria. Turkey has a military standardization due to NATO standards, NATO membership, and it is inclined to deliver these experience and deliver these doctrinal transfer to friend and allied countries, whether it is a NATO member or not. We so in Azerbaijan, Turkey delivered its military capabilities as well as its military doctrine due to NATO standards. And now Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev was officially saying that Azerbaijani military is being trained within the NATO standards. In Somalia, Turkey has the biggest overseas military base, in which Somalia forces being trained within the commando standardization. And similar experiences is being transferred to Libya. So I think this compatibility is being realized due to transfer of NATO standards, NATO technology, and NATO doctrines to friend and allied states. Of course, there could be some strains and some problems, particularly in the Western eyes. For instance, uh, some circles in the West criticize Turkish position against Israel on the Hamas issue. They some some of them argue that Turkey is a supporter of Hamas and highly criticized of Israel. But as I said, this is a historical and principled position, and Turkey sees Israeli actions destabilizing in the region, and indeed this is in the fact that this is the uh, understandable for the Trump administration, because when you look at the current U.S. administration's policy towards Turkey, it is fully understandable, because he says that Mr. Erdogan helps us due to Iran crisis and do not intervene conflict. So the U.S. administration argued that Turkey is, even though Turkey criticizes the Israeli position in the region, it does not, it is not in complicit with the NATO priorities.
Yes, coming to that part of it, what you were just mentioning just now regarding uh, your position in NATO, Turkey's position in NATO, which is if it becomes stronger and stronger and you play a more significant role in NATO. Apparently, I'm not saying that there is, but the possibility that there may be a conflict in this kind of a situation, especially when Turkey is also very active among the Muslim nations. We know Turkey is very active in supporting Palestine, in Gaza, especially in humanitarian and other things. So, when the way perhaps Turkey looks at the Palestine issue is not maybe not the same as how some NATO members see Palestine uh, and Israel, because Turkey looks at Israel in a different way. I think it's not the same as some of the other members of NATO. Now, how what path will you take? I mean, what will happen in this kind of a context when there are conflicting situations, or rather, the way you look at the thing, look at the way you look at Palestine is different from some other members of NATO who look at Palestine in a different way, or maybe as supporters of Israel, and you might have some kind of I wouldn't know whether you could call it a conflict, but within NATO, is there going to be some kind of disagreement or something like that?
I don't think this would be a problem at all, because most of the NATO members, allies, have significantly different priorities other than Palestine. Most of the NATO allies now uh, perceives a significant, immediate, and direct and long-term threat from Russia, and they all focus on their efforts to how to counter not also Russian aggression, but also Russian influence and Russian hybrid attacks. Their priorities are very different from from the Middle East, and
Yeah.
I don't think they have any stake in the Palestine issue. They are just ignoring Israeli aggressive actions in the region for the sake of not being criticized by the Jewish lobby, or by the U.S. administration, or by the U.S. Congress. So they just ignore the issue and focus on their own priorities. This is why Turkey's influence and status in the NATO and the European security architecture has upgraded in recent years, because Russia is, as you can see in the NATO declarations, European Union documents, Russia is defined as direct, immediate, and long-term threat. So the conventional paradigm in Europe and most of the NATO is to counter Russia, and how can we develop further mechanisms and further measures to do it. So I don't think Turkey's position in the Palestine issue would be a significant problem, even if it does not pose a problem in the United States. It does not pose a problem within the European Union or within NATO.
I see. I would like to come to outside of Europe and coming to my part of or our part of the world here. Now, as a close partner of Turkey and an influential middle power in ASEAN, how should Malaysia respond to Turkey's evolving strategic role? What new areas of cooperation should both countries, Malaysia and Turkey, do to strengthen Muslim connectivity, regional stability, and strategic autonomy? Can I have can you elaborate on this?
Turkey and Malaysia has already very good relations. As I can see, there is a very good relationship on the presidential level. The trade between countries are booming, and defense cooperation is increasing. Malaysian Navy procuring Turkish vessels. The bilateral relations are very good for me. And in terms of the political discourse and political positioning and the diplomatic way of conducting foreign affairs, I think there is also a compatibility because President Erdogan and President Anwar Ibrahim uh, have similar, I think, have similar approach to foreign affairs. Malaysia, as far as I can see, wants to conduct a independent, non-aligned foreign policy, as well as it wants to embrace a principled foreign policy. It wants to embrace a principled but non-aligned foreign policy because we know that there is a great power competition between the United States and China, and you could be at the center of that competition. And Malaysia, understandably, wants to maintain its non-aligned and independent status. And in terms of the critical issues regarding the Muslim world, we know that we are seeing that both countries demonstrate some sensitivities towards Palestine and Gaza issue. So Turkey also, despite being a NATO member and belonging to Western security architecture, always wanted to maintain its unique, independent diplomatic flexibility. Overall, these principled positions, these uh, uh, priorities concludes that in terms of political positioning, two countries are better positioned to uh, further their cooperation. How can we develop this bilateral relationship? In my opinion, lies on the increasing connectivity and defense sector. I am focusing on the connectivity because Malaysia, as far as I know, is a trading nation, and connectivity is much
Yes.
so important for Malaysia. And Turkey is emphasizing connectivity in the past decade, as you can see in the Middle Corridor initiative, the Development Road initiative established with Iraq, and such initiatives could uh, further expand the logistical hubs between Turkey and Malaysia. It can connect Malaysian ports and Malaysian railways to Turkish ports and Turkish eastern cities, which could well go to the European market. There are now several such initiatives, such as the Indian-led India Middle East Europe Corridor or China's Belt Road Initiative. But uh, I think we should not see them mutually exclusive because these are not entirely security geopolitical issues, but these are economical issues. So there could always be win-win situation despite the other factors. And the second issue is the defense sector. We are seeing that Malaysia, as with the other many Asian states, focus on military modernization and defense modernization. And we also know that Turkey is a rising player in the defense sector, but most people ignore that Turkey also uh, inclined to welcoming to technology transfer in terms of defense cooperation. Uh, in several defense agreements uh, made in the past, Turkish companies and the Turkish state demonstrated that they are welcoming to transfer Turkish military technology to friendly and allied states. So now we are seeing that several of Turkish vessels, Turkish aircraft, Turkish unmanned systems are being produced in several foreign countries. For instance, Saudi Arabia, Turkish company Baykar established a factory, and Saudi technicians and Saudi military personnel works there. And we signed a deal with Spain, and Spanish technicians work with Turkish technicians. And Turkish armored vehicles established several factories in Balkans. So the Balkan states, for instance, Macedonia or Kosovo, and even Baltic states such as Lithuania is producing such vehicles with the Turkish personnel. So I think there is no obstacle in developing such endeavors, which would, in my opinion, uh,
Yeah,
grant Malaysia to gain defense technology transfer in the long term.
very interesting because I think the relationship between Malaysia and Turkey is very good at a very high level. I think both President Erdogan and our Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim are very close in this respect. Uh, now, now going towards the future, looking ahead uh, towards the next decade. Now, do you believe Turkey is evolving into a regional power or middle power or a genuine global connector? What will ultimately determine the success or failure of this strategic vision? Your position in the world.
Yes, such categorizations can be exist and be attributed, but they cannot entirely define positions or status in the international system.
Mm,
Uh, what Turkey wants to do or what Turkey wants to achieve in such terms is it difficult to answer. One can say that Turkey wants to do all of them. Uh, for most of the actors today, probably all would say that Turkey is a regional power. Uh,
mm,
or Turkey is a middle power, but it could be beyond the middle power because it has aspirations. It has also global aspirations. Uh, so, uh, for instance, within the NATO discussions, NATO debates, there is an issue that how can we define Turkey within NATO's security architecture? Is it a flank state in the east or south? Is it a frontier state that could be a bulwark against the Soviet Union and now Russia? Or is it a central actor? So this is a difficult to answer, but in my opinion, Turkey wants to and reach to a maximum possible position. It is beyond the middle power. It is a critical regional power. It is not a global power, but it has global aspirations. And I think this would be related with the future projections of the economic resilience, and the uh, sustainment of the defense industry and the armed forces. Now, Turkey has the second largest military in NATO, but it has also bigger than the France and Poland combined. France and Poland now third and fourth biggest countries within NATO, but Turkish armed forces are bigger than their combined. So there is also defense industrial factor, but there are several factors. The reality is that Turkey has aspirations. It wants to do more. It has also problems. We have a problem with the political solidarity, particularly in terms of cooperation on the countering terrorism, because we have dealt with terrorism for 4 decades, more than 4 decades, which took tens of thousands of Turkish lives. We have problems with the embargoes. For instance, when Turkey conducted counter-terrorist operation towards northern Syria, the NATO allies put significant embargoes on Turkey, and at that time, everybody, in fact, was aware that the structure in the northern Syria was the affiliate of the PKK, the separatist terrorist organization, which campaigned against Turkey. And there were records even within the United States Congress and among the United States generals. So we have also such problems countering terrorism, and there is also the Cyprus issue, which has been a long-standing one that undermined Turkish relationship with Europe, particularly with the Greek Cypriot administration pressure on European Union mechanisms. So overall, there are problems. There are problems, and there are also positive factors, and just time will see how this trajectory will evolve in the future term.
More or less wraps up our discussion on Turkey as a member of NATO and its role within that alliance, as well as Turkey's role in the Muslim world, where it is very influential, and how it balances both relations on both sides. And also interestingly, you clarified how we could increase cooperation, or rather our ties between Malaysia and Turkey, and we hope that this will in the future pay dividends to both countries in a very big way. Thank you very much, Mr. Rıfat Öncel from SETA, Turkey, for being with us today. And we hope we'll be able to meet you again in the future for another discussion at a later time. Thank you very much. This has been Forum on the Go. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.